some news came out.
She looks creepy.
Hey, here it is. We're back. We're finally back.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's your favorite horror show here on the Screaming Room at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and all those times in between. So the news of the week, of the month, Terrifier 3.
Yep.
Making bank at the box office.
Yep. I mean, it's really a groundbreaking thing. I don't think a lot of people even realize. I mean, I know those of us that are super entrenched in horror get how big of a deal this is, but I don't think the average fan of horror and even the average fan of Terrifier realizes what a big deal this is. The fact that it opened up as number one at the box office. This is a franchise that is literally was self-funded. The last movie was crowdfunded.
Yeah.
Like, that's how crazy this is. But it made enough money that they were able to invest $5 million this time around. So they put $5 million in this. And a lot of people I've heard saying, well, it doesn't look $5 million better than the last one. Like, what's going on? That last one was only 200,000. What's going on is they actually paid people this time to work on the movie.
Right.
It's like DJ knows what this is like. Like, a lot of times you can make a movie super cheap because everybody does it as they care about you and they're trying to help you out. So they'll either do it for free or for, very little money. And so a lot of those people, like I know a lot of the sound people for Terrifier 2 didn't get paid at all or very little. A lot of the people that worked on special effects. I mean, this one, he had Savini work on the special effects for this.
Yeah.
So it's like they could have made this movie for $200,000-300,000, but this time was like finally the time to actually pay the people. And then there was also
1 and 2, paying people for 1 and 2, and
it's kind of like when the Academy Awards will give an Academy Award to an actor who, maybe not their best performance they've ever given, but it's kind of a lifetime achievement. Like, we saw with Leonardo DiCaprio, it's like, he probably should have got one for Basketball Diaries back in the day, but
I mean, he should have,
or Gilbert Grape.
Yeah. I mean, he should have got one for Gilbert Grape. Yeah. That's for sure. What's going on, everybody? Hey, Lila, good to see you.
What's up, everybody?
Yobit. Sorry. Hi, Yobit. Good to see you. I already flashed these on screen, but I'm going to say hi again. Hey to Deppermint.
Yeah, why am I not seeing the comments?
Mr. Jim. What's going on, James? Good to see you. Heather, hey, what's up? Daryl, hey, good to see you. Terry, hi, good to see you. If you guys are watching this on the Ghost Pirates side, please go over to the Screaming Room side. The link is in the chat. I forgot to put it in the description box in Ghost Pirate, but we just put it in the chat. Please watch us on the Screaming Room channel. Here it is. Please watch us there. Chat with us there. We'd love to see you over there. And everybody likes to talk to everybody else in the chat. We have a very awesome live active chat. Please talk to us over there. So Terrifier.
How was your week though? Like, because I know you had the hurricane, and so that's why for anybody who doesn't know, that's why we couldn't do the podcast last week. He had to evacuate because he lives. You live near Jacksonville, right?
I live in Jacksonville, which is actually the best city to live in Florida.
Usually,
because it's between Jacksonville and Miami. If we're talking about hurricanes, it's between Jacksonville and Miami, because Tampa and Orlando and the Panhandle are always the ones that are getting hit. And Jacksonville will get those like rain bands. So if the center of my hand is the eye of the hurricane, my fingers are the rain bands. And those can still be like, you're still going to get wind. You're still going to get rain. You're still going to get storm surge, but it's never going to be as bad. But Milton was turning out to be pretty crazy.
Like they were saying, where it hit was the first time in over 100 years that we have had a hurricane take that path.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
So
it was and the Gulf is where hurricanes get strong. That's why it was a Category 5 right in the middle of it. And people
yep,
thought that it was going to stay a Category 5 the closer it got
yeah,
inland. And like if you're educated at all on hurricanes, you know that's not true.
yeah,
It went down to a hurricane to a Category 3, which is still a major hurricane. Not taking
yeah,
anything away from that. Like Tampa got like royally screwed. Not taking anything away from that, but it wasn't a Cat 5. And Jacksonville's fine. My place is fine. I moved a little further inland.
just to be safe.
Was a threat of
Yeah.
storm surge from where I was going to be, which is water rising. So
Which is a lot of times, like if people don't know, that's actually one of the more dangerous elements. That and the fact that it can cause tornadoes, because a lot of times when it gets inland, it'll cause a
yeah,
tornado, which could be even more devastating.
yeah, and
But
tornadoes are
the surge is like in Tampa and places that it is where the bay will literally like drown the downtown area.
yeah.
Because it's just such a big surge. But it was crazy. There was some crazy dude on a kayak that rode it out in Tampa, like harbor, like right there in the bay. He
There
like
are so
rode the
many
whole
great.
thing on a kayak.
If you're on TikTok or you're on Instagram and you watch like Instagram reels, there's so many like Florida people uh
They don't give a
doing
fuck.
Florida people things during hurricanes. It's fantastic. But other than that, no, my week has been busy. For those of you who don't know, I am a filmmaker and I just finished my first feature film, and the rough cut of the film is done. And so I sent the rough cut out to a bunch of different people. Kanan is one of them who has seen it. And I've been getting some feedback on that movie. It's called The Hellgate. And so for the second cut, so I can tighten some things up, if some things don't work, I can try to, move some stuff around, change some shots, do stuff like that and really make like a really good movie. And so I've just been taking all of that in, taking my own notes from that feedback and making changes where I can. But I'm
Yeah,
actually
you
going
even
back.
realized that there was a scene missing, right?
Right. There's even a scene missing that I didn't even.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember that I was reminded of. So I get to put
But
that
that's
in.
why rough cut, like people that may not know, that's why rough cuts are so crucial, because it's kind of like getting other eyes on this thing you've been staring at, and it helps like fill in the gaps, tighten
Yeah.
things up, cut it down, like all those different things.
Right. And I'm
Yeah.
editing this movie myself too. And I'm an editor in the sense that I've edited a bunch of short films. I've edited a bunch of like commercials and wedding videos and stuff like that. But this is my first like real feature film that I'm editing. So I'm going to be making a lot of greeny mistakes, but I got a good support structure around me, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited to bring this to market for everybody. I think it's going to be
Yeah.
good once it's all done
Yeah,
and we get
I agree.
a final film.
People are going to be stoked. Like there's a lot of surprises, and I think like one of my biggest surprises watching it was like, holy shit, this is a real movie. You know what
Well,
I mean?
thank
Like a
you.
lot of people they don't think about that. Like, oh, I'm watching so and so's movie, and you don't expect it to be like a real movie. And when you lose yourself into it, you're like, oh wow, this is actually a movie. Like I'm actually invested in the story and these characters.
Thank you.
So yeah,
Joe
people are
Begret,
gonna dig it.
it is a horror film.
Yep,
It's it
very
it
much
it
so.
it is a horror movie. And so the audience that we're talking to right now is definitely the audience. But
It's like it's like horror, metal, and boobs, man. Like it's everything that, especially guys like that, we dig in horror movies. Like it's got a lot of that kind of throwback feel to it.
I know my
Um,
demographic, and
yeah,
women like
but you know what
boobs
I
too.
mean. No, I know, but what I'm talking about is like we in the 80s and 90s we got at that. We had a lot of metal and like that real and not just yeah, we had boobs too, but like there was that feel of our horror movies, and some of that's been lost because there's like it's like we're more highbrow artsy kind of horror now and not as much of that. And so I think it's cool when filmmakers make stuff that is more in that, you know what I mean,
I don't pull
now.
any. Well, so my whole
So
philosophy as a filmmaker is I want to make movies that I want to see. And I would
mhm.
honestly, I would consider myself more of that highbrow sort of fan. Like I'm the guy that is I like the Hereditaries, the Autopsy of Jane Doe, Taking of Deborah Logan, The Exorcist. Like that's my jam. I love the slasher splatter films. Some of I less splatter, which we're gonna talk. I had an epiphany watching Terrifier 3. And so that's a little foreshadowing for our discussion. But I like both of those realms of horror very much, and I want to try to blend those two in the
Yep.
movies that I make.
I was
I
gonna
want to
say
have
that feels like what you're going for in this. Like it has some camp. It has some like of that, like I said, that 80s feel, but then there's also a story to it, and it has like creative shots and creative lighting, and you know, it feels artsy too. So yeah. So like it's not a slasher. It's not like a dumb
no.
slasher where, you know, so I don't want to make people think that that's what it is at all. It's not. It's much more to it than that. So
Yeah,
I
so
know, I
that's
know people that are fans of this channel of Ghost Pirate. I know they're gonna dig it because it's like the kind of stuff that they're always yelling about. We want more of this, you know. Not gonna say what that is because I don't want to spoil anything, but you know.
well, it hopefully next year. Well, I mean, it'll definitely be out next year. It'll be out
Yeah.
at some point next year. I'm hoping by summer.
Yeah.
I'm hoping next summer is when we're gonna have the wide release of it. Because we have a long way to go after the edit's done. We have to go through distribution and the film festival circuit. I kind of want to do one or the other, but it's probably going to. I'm probably just going to go direct distribution on this, but we'll see. We'll see what we do. I'm gonna be testing the waters on some stuff.
Well, you
but,
can still do certain film festivals as well once, even with a distributor, like depending on the festival. Like you don't have to, like some you have to be an independent, you know, to go into it, but then there's other ones where you can already have distribution.
well, it's
I
just a
mean,
lot of
like I know
premiere status.
Fantastic Fest, a lot of those movies had distribution. Like
Yeah,
Terrifier premiere there already had distribution. So it's just
yeah.
it's more about what you're going for there, like what the point is of going to that festival and like the kind of categories that it's put in.
Right.
So,
But
but
yeah,
anyway,
but
yeah,
it's
we'll
real
definitely let
exciting.
people know when as it gets closer to, you know, time for people to be able to see it. So,
Yeah. So
like,
let's
who
talk
knows?
about
Maybe we'll even get to set up some kind of premiere here on the West Coast near me.
maybe.
We
I would
could
love
set
it.
up
I haven't been
something.
to California yet.
I know
I have
exactly.
not. I have not been. I gotta get my ass out there.
Yep, that would be cool. Because I definitely know where to go, especially in Sacramento, to set up a theater that way. My friends do it pretty regularly. So anyway, let's get
Let's let's
to
get
the
to it.
talk of the day.
From Bloody Disgusting says, "Pinch Me, Terrifier 3 is the #1 film in the country. Talk about a perfect storm. I still can't believe I'm sitting here writing an article about how our little slasher movie is the #1 film in the entire country. Yes, it's true. Terrifier 3 beat all the odds by defeating not only the criminally overpanned Joker Folie à Deux, but also the modern animated cinematic marvel, The Wild Robot." I didn't even hear that, but whatever. According to early estimates,
Well,
Damien.
go ahead.
Well,
I got
according to
some things to push back on this when you're done, but yeah,
okay,
go ahead.
according to early estimates, Damien Leone's Terrifier 3 is estimated to have pulled in 18.2 million over the weekend. Actuals come out tomorrow, which the actuals are already out. I don't have them up right now. This article's 3 days old, but anyway, easily taking the top spot at this weekend's box office. There was an insane momentum shift when Joker took a critical and fan beating, resulting in a horrific opening and a monumental drop off. I think it was an 81% drop off.
Yeah, it was
It
insane.
was
It went from 45 to whatever it was. Like that's crazy. But everybody knew that was coming.
Well, anyway, this was fueled by a loss of showings, many of which shifted over to Terrifier 3. Related, critics were mostly supportive of Terrifier 3, propelling the third film to a 78% score on Rotten Tomatoes, earning the film a certified fresh stamp. Fans showed up this weekend with Rotten Tomatoes popcorn meter sitting at 90% as of this writing. I've been in this business for 25 years and have never seen anything quite like Terrifier 3. Oh, excuse me. The fans. What I saw this weekend was different than A Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Scream, Paranormal Activity, and even Saw. My personal experience was theaters jam-packed with hardcore horror fans, all celebrating the rise of Art the Clown and the Terrifier franchise. Many dressed head to toe in Terrifier merch and several in full-blown makeup. This was a celebration of horror that felt personal in a way that many people will never understand. I want to talk about that for a second. I am not a fan of the Terrifier films, and I have not been shy about saying that. However, I think this is great. I really do enjoy seeing audience turnout like this and fans showing up and showing out for the genre. And
Yeah.
even though I don't like the films, even though I don't think they're good, I like that it is having an impact here because this is also going to give indie filmmakers like myself
Yeah.
like a jolt of confidence that
Oh
we
yeah.
can do this, that audiences are looking for original content like this. This is an original movie with
Yeah.
with an original character and art and something
Well,
that is showing that it has staying power.
and it would be one thing if it was just an outlier, but it's not. It's like we're seeing this like all year long and last few years. I mean, like we keep getting shocked, but people shouldn't be anymore. I mean, Long Legs opened up at number 1, made 20 million. That's an independent horror movie.
Yeah.
Immaculate broke records at the time until Long Legs broke it again, but like that's another indie movie. Like there's so many movies. I mean, The Substance has made over 10 million, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's another like the first time like the company Newbie that put out The Substance, it's their first time really doing a movie. It's basically like Tubi putting out their own movie into a theater for the first time. Like that is a big deal. So
Yeah.
it's like there has been a sea change for quite a while, and it's like Terrifier is just like a really glaring example because um this all started, with the first Terrifier coming out of nowhere and surprising people, and and then Terrifier 2 especially really surprising people. A lot of it is because of how gory it is. But the one thing I wanted to push back on is um it would have made the same no matter what, right? Like, and you can't, no matter what, 18, it was actually, I think, closer to 19 when it was all said and done, but 18 plus million, it was going to do that no matter what. It's what I said. I said it was going to get close to 20 and it got, 18 plus.
What do you mean no matter what?
But
You mean if people didn't show up in the theater, you thought it was still going to make
no,
20 million?
no. It would have made that no matter what. But the reason it's number 1 is not because of that. It's number 1 because they mentioned 2 movies, right? Uh Robot, what's it called? Wild Robot has been out for like a month.
Right. And
It's
Joker.
also an out of nowhere movie. Like it's a small production animated movie that wasn't promoted and surprised everyone how good it is and has had staying power, and all that is the only reason it's even still in theaters and still making money. So that's not competition for number 1. Like, what should have happened is the Joker made 100 million its opening weekend, like the first, like most comic book movies, and made another like 70 million its second weekend. And so what it should be is like the Joker number 1 and Terrifier number 2 with 18. Like, because it was going to make that no matter what. The people that went and saw Terrifier, it's not like those people would have went and saw the Joker movie if it was better. So it's like what really happened here, as far as this being the number 1 movie, is because that movie is so bad. Is because
Yeah.
Joker's so bad. So I mean, like that I push back on a little bit, because this wouldn't have been a number 1 released movie if it wasn't for there being no other movies scheduled around now, because everybody expected Joker to make so much fucking money.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely that's definitely a good point. But still being number 2 is
I
not
just,
is not
but what
bad.
I'm saying is I think people should be focusing more on the number it made. And the fact that it's number 1 is a huge deal because it's the most gory movie ever to be a number 1, and like all that it is crazy. It is a big deal, but I do think that some people like this, the article writer, need to look at reality a little bit here. And instead of
Right.
focusing on it being number 1, focus on the fact that it made 18, because it was going to make that no matter what. You could have had all the biggest movies of the entire year come out this week, and Terrifier 3 would have still made 18 million.
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
right
I can see what
now,
you're saying.
the core fans, the people that love this franchise, like, I mean, I've seen this 3 times, and all 3 times it was packed with people wearing Terrifier merch. So like, those are the people that are going to see this. What I am more interested in at this point. I'm excited as hell. Like, this is a huge deal for Hollywood. It's another big thing. We've seen numerous now this year, like I mentioned, long legs and whatever, but telling Hollywood, like, fuck you guys. You
Yeah.
know, things are changing. Things are different now. You guys either figure this shit out or we're going to leave you behind. It's exactly what's happened with TV and YouTube. Like, YouTube is outdoing Netflix now. It is rival, like Netflix or YouTube shows are rivaling. Like, a lot of them get more numbers than the biggest TV shows on network TV and cable. Like,
Yeah,
it's
you're right.
insane. And it's like they're all starting to realize, like, oh shit, TV is disappearing. We either do something different or it's going to be gone. And this is exactly what we're seeing now with movies. Is independent movies are becoming, becoming the thing. But
Good.
Yeah. I mean, but that's why I want people to more focus on that a little bit. Like, this is a huge deal, but it's big. Like, you don't have to be a fan of this movie at all or this franchise at all to, like you said, understand the importance of this and celebrate what it's doing.
Indeed. All right, I'm going to finish the article and we can keep talking because I want to talk. I want to give our reviews and all that too. As most of you know, Terrifier got its start as a short film in Damien Leone's anthology All Hallows Eve before joining producer Phil Falcone to create the Terrifier franchise. The first film is considered by many to be an underground grindhouse masterpiece, and fans swarmed to support Damien and Phil's Kickstarter for Terrifier 2, likening this to discovering a band before anyone else. Fans feel a personal connection to Terrifier and were there from day one to support our Terrifier 2 release. We expected Terrifier 2 to do extremely well with the hardcore fans. We didn't expect it to break pop culture and become a national phenomenon. Similarly, with Terrifier 3, we had strong expectations, but not on this level. It reminds me of the endings of Rocky and Rocky 2. With Terrifier 2, horror fans showed up and punched Hollywood right in the nose. With Terrifier 3, they beat it to a bloody pulp. This entire industry is against horror films, always quick to declare our genre dead when a single studio-driven horror film flops. That's true. Meanwhile, indie horror is as hot and healthy as ever, with films like Neon's Long Legs to AMC's Late Night with the Devil making a killing at the box office. Digressing, Terrifier 3 is truly unprecedented in many ways. First and foremost, it's controlled by the creators, meaning it's wholly authentic and doesn't have any studio interference. They have complete creative control and can drive the franchise and characters in any direction they want. This is so incredibly special in a time where we're watching all the drama unfold with Friday the 13th and continue wondering where the hell Freddy Krueger went. Will we ever see another Hellraiser? When will Michael Myers be back? Will they be remakes, requels, or faux canonized sequels? However, the biggest issue with studio horror is that their films are typically sanitized. It's important to remember that this is a business first and art second, unless, of course, we're talking about Joker, which means the studios need to de-risk their investments and make sure their slashers are as accessible as possible to the largest audience. With Terrifier, horror fans are getting pure, unadulterated, uncompromised, and completely unrated cinema, which truly is unprecedented. In fact, we're having trouble confirming this, but we believe Terrifier 3 might be the only unrated film to open number one at the box office. It's also likely to be
I've
the
heard
highest
that from a lot of people.
It's also likely to be the highest grossing unrated film of all time. In regards to 2024, Terrifier 3's $18.2 million opening beats all the big studios, topping Universal Pictures' Trap, Lionsgate Strangers Chapter 1, and Uni's Night Swim. There's a lesson here for the studios that will be ignored, which is what makes Terrifier 3 even more special. This franchise is for the fans, supported by the fans, and made by fans with zero compromise. From day one, Damien and Phil believed that these films on a level I have never seen before. They believed in themselves, their team, and their fans. A real horror family that is uniting this weekend to celebrate true horror in its purest form. I want to thank Damien and Phil for bringing us along for the ride. Their entire team, from Lisa to Michael, Jason, Steven, Jamie, George, all these people, for their constant help and support, and the Bloody Disgusting crew, especially John Squires and Megan Navarro, for holding down the fort during these extremely difficult and stressful months. Terrifier 3 is for all of us. And here is a nice little picture with Art to Clown by Brandon, David, and Brad. So that's it. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty special.
Two things. Well, one, I think technically it's not the highest, not unrated, because I heard that the Beyonce movie was unrated, but not because there's anything, but because there's nothing in it. Like, they didn't even bother.
There's nothing in it, right?
Yeah, they didn't even bother getting a rating on it. But as far as like an actual movie based on unrated because it was not going to get a rating kind of thing, like, because it's so gory kind of thing. Yeah, it's definitely the biggest movie. But I also I think a lot of people think it's the gore and that's what makes these so successful. I don't agree. And I also think it's a lot of what a lot of people miss about them and what okay, so the humor, like these are black comedies. And I just don't think they're labeled that way. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. But like, for instance, I was reading an article that Damien, or maybe a tweet, I don't remember, but Damien Leone was talking about the ending of Terrifier 3. And he was talking about how he had put a couple jokes in that ending scene because he felt like it was too dark. It was too I forget the term he used, but it was kind of depressing, a little bit too dark, and needed to be punched up. And that's the whole point. I mean, we're watching a clown. It feels different than like Circus of the Dead? Is that the name of the movie with the clowns? The like slasher grindhouse movie with the clowns? I think it's Circus of the Dead. Yeah, Circus of the Dead. With Papa
Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
Huh? No. I think it's called Circus of the Dead, but the difference between the two is that one is clowns, but there is no humor in that movie at all. Like that movie is kind of bothers you a little bit, even someone that watches a ton of horror like me, because it's just it feels almost like the house that Jack built. Like you would never say there's any humor in the house that Jack built. That is a very dark, completely disturbing. It's meant to disturb you. It's meant to make you feel like you need to take a shower. And Circus of the Dead is kind of that way too. Like they do try to do some black humor in it, but it doesn't land. It just feels mean. Like everything they do is mean and grimy and dirty. You should watch it. It's super low budget, like another real big success for how fucked up and low budget it is. But anyway, and I think that's the thing that a lot of people miss. And I've been figuring this out because when I've heard people talk about The Coffee Table and how it's a black comedy, and a lot of people, the ones that don't like it, are the ones that don't get the humor in it and don't feel any humor from it. And so I think it's a lot of people that just aren't it's not even so much that people that are not fans of dark humor, but it's kind of like, you know how some people don't pick up on satire, and it always makes you go, how do you not understand that that's in satire? Like there's a lot of people that literally just don't, for whatever reason, they don't register satire, and they always just say it's stupid because they don't get it. And if you say you didn't get it, they always get offended, like it went over their head or whatever. But no, it's literally just some people don't register certain things the same. And I think black humor is that way. And I think that's the deal with Terrifier. Some of us, like myself, think they're funny as hell. Like my really good friend, we went and saw it together, and we were literally like rolling, laughing through that whole movie. Like the whole movie is meant to be over the top. That's why the gore goes so far. Everything is meant to push the boundaries so far that it goes away from disturbing and becomes funny. And I've seen numerous people comment saying they don't like Terrifier 3 because they like the first Terrifier because it's not trying to be funny, and this one doesn't seem to be scary anymore. It's just funny. I'm like, you don't get these movies. They were always meant to be funny. All the way back to the first Terrifier. The humor just doesn't land as well in the first Terrifier.
I mean, I'm pretty, I like black comedy and dark humor. I just didn't find the Terrifier movies to be very funny.
Exactly.
I mean, but it's not because I didn't get it. I just
don't. No, you don't get it. That's the thing. It's not that it's above your head or above your intelligence.
Hang on.
Getting something means registering.
Yeah, but okay, look. You can get humor and also still not find the jokes funny.
No. Then that means you didn't get it. Like it's like getting it. If someone tells a joke, and you know what the punchline is, and you just don't find it funny, it means you didn't get the joke. Like the joke wasn't meant for you. It didn't register with you. And say you didn't get it, a lot of people think that means you don't understand it. It's like, no, it's not about you not understanding it. It means it didn't hit your wavelengths. It doesn't tickle your funny bone. It didn't get you the same way that it got me.
Okay, but
I mean, what other way can you say that? It's not like it meaning to demean someone when you say that they didn't get something. It's like it just doesn't, like, if I
okay,
say you didn't
have you ever heard
understand something, that's different.
Have you ever heard a dad joke?
Yeah.
Okay, do you think dad jokes are funny?
No, I don't get
Okay,
them.
do you
I
get
don't
them?
get it. I don't get that type of humor. Do I understand them?
You
Yes. Do I get them? No. Like, I understand why people think it's funny. I understand what the jokes are going for, but I don't get them. They don't land with me. I don't get that sense of humor.
I just don't think that doesn't mean you don't get it. I think you get it, you just don't find it funny.
But what other way do you put that then?
You just
It's like, if you don't find
put
it
it like
funny,
that. You don't find it funny. You get the
no,
joke, you just don't
but
think it's a funny joke.
no, then
That's
you
why
don't get the joke. Like, you
No.
get it if it lands with you.
Okay, all right. I wanna move on.
Okay,
Do you
so
wanna give
instead of saying you don't get it, I wanna say it doesn't register the same. Like,
It's
it
fine.
Doesn't hit your funny bone the same.
Right. It's fine.
And so that's the point. Like, I think that a lot of people they don't register that same sense of humor as some of us do with Terrifier. Like, there's two camps of people that love the Terrifier movies. There's the ones that are gore hounds that just love the gore and the special effects of it. They don't really give a fuck about anything else, but they love that element. And then there's the ones like me that I enjoy the gore, especially because I love the special effects and the creativity involved and all that. But I'm not someone that likes to watch real death. I'm not someone that likes to watch real gore. So I don't get off on gore, which is something that frustrates me about a lot of things I've seen people saying, where it's like the only people that like these movies are like perverted, people that are sadistic and, that enjoy watching death. And yeah, it's not that at all.
I don't buy that at all.
I mean, there are some, I'm sure,
Well, yeah, I mean, there's sickos out there, but I mean, yeah, the majority of the audience are not.
But if you look at serial killers,
intentioned people.
But if you look at like serial killers, it's always funny that it's like with music where they say, but in reality, it's like they like Citizen Kane. You know what I mean? They like fucking Bambi, like the most off the wall shit that has nothing to do with gore. And like, that's their favorite movie or their favorite music. So.
All right. Well, I want to get into so let's get into our personal reviews of Terrifier. Do you want to go first? Or you want me to?
Yeah. We'll just go back and forth. So.
Okay. So I had an epiphany with this movie, and it took me 3 movies to get this. I don't think I would have got it if the third movie didn't come out. I don't think I would have had this epiphany. And it might seem obvious to people in the chat. So if you guys want to run me through the mud, fine. I don't care. But the Terrifier movies are not horror movies. What they are splatter movies. And I think that
they even say that, actually. Well, so like Jamie Leone calls it a splatter slasher. Like he says that.
And I think but I think that's an important distinction to make, because and I liken it to heavy metal, right? We're both metalheads. Heavy metal has subgenres of metal, but all subgenres are metal, right? And if you want to boil it down to its logical conclusion point, grindcore is metal. Death is metal. All of this stuff, like post-hardcore is metal, right? It's all metal. So Terrifier are splatter films, and I think the reason why I don't like the Terrifier films is because they are very much splatter films, and that's not my preferred subgenre of horror. And
yeah, I mean, they're like they're grindhouse, they're splatter, they're slasher comedy, and all those fit into the horror.
Right, they all fit into horror. So
like into the family of horror, which is what a lot of people, when they say that's not horror, it's because they don't realize, you know what I mean? Like, there are so many subgenres that all fit in the little house,
that
the
fit in the umbrella
of horror, right? Is. Yeah.
But to say it's a strictly horror movie is wrong. And that's how I was approaching these movies, was that they were horror films and they weren't splatter films.
But how is that wrong?
Here's how it's wrong.
If
I'm gonna
horror
explain.
is the umbrella,
Right. I'm going to explain how it's wrong. So it's wrong because horror, even though it's the umbrella genre, is also its own separate genre, like heavy metal. So you have heavy metal bands, and then you have like porno grind bands or grindcore bands or tech death, right? Porno
what
grind
is
and death.
strictly horror? Like, what are movies that are pure horror? Because I
The
don't know if that
Exorcist,
exists because it's,
the,
but
the
that's not
Exorcist,
just horror
Halloween.
either. That's religious horror.
No, but they're horror films. They're not splatter films, right? So what makes a death metal band
But
a death metal band and not
splatter
a
is a
heavy metal?
subgenre.
I understand. That's what I'm trying to
Just
say.
like
Listen, that's what,
religious horror is a subgenre in
yes,
horror.
I understand. That's what I'm trying to say.
But
So
what I'm saying is I don't know how anything can be just pure horror because everything is kind of like a subgenre now. Like I said, The Exorcist when it came out was pure horror, but we didn't have all these different subgenres yet. Now it's not. It's categorized as religious horror, and then there's like every movie like slasher horror movies. So I don't know if you can say anything is just pure horror though. That's the part I
it's
have a
the earlier
struggle with.
what you can call pure horror are the early horror films, are the earlier starting. And I'm going to bring it right back to metal. Black Sabbath is heavy metal. There is no argument there. They are a heavy metal band. You can place them in the doom metal subgenre, but Black Sabbath is heavy metal. You would not say that they were grindcore.
But you can say that because they're one of the originators.
You wouldn't say that they were Right, that's what I'm trying to say. So to answer your question, what is a pure horror film? That's where I would go back to the early 70s, late 60s horror movies. That is what is pure horror. That's what would be what would be horror films, right? When you get later on into the genre where you start to splinter off into the subgenres.
Yeah, but we
Terrifier belongs
have
in splatter.
like Frankenstein. It's not just a horror movie. I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many that even back when it first started, they had, like Dracula has elements of fantasy and you know what I mean? So like there isn't ever been a time that's why I don't think it's different with metal, because with metal,
Okay.
you can literally pinpoint who started metal.
Yes.
You can't pinpoint in horror because it kind of like slowly evolved.
Well, you can pinpoint the first horror film.
No, you can't. There's numerous people that say there's a number of different movies that people call like
no, it's that old French
it's
that old French film, the cask or the castle of whatever. You know what I'm talking about? That's the first horror film.
Yeah, but even that, like, what makes it horror versus like it's not even that I think,
but if you're gonna ask the question,
you're wrong.
Hang on,
this is something I struggle with all the time because people are constantly in my comments saying, that's not a horror movie, and I'm like, dude, who the fuck is the horror police? Like, I'm just tired of it, dude. It's like,
no, I get it.
It's an umbrella, and there are 1,000 different subgenres, and that's how I label it. If it falls into that horror umbrella, it's a horror movie.
Yeah, this is a conversation we can have until the end of time. I get that. I want to address this comment though, real quick. I want to address this comment. Blind Chick from Oddity's Baby Daddy says heavy metal is a subgenre of rock and roll, dude. Not sure subs of subs are. Yes, I understand that. I know metal is I know it's all rock and roll. Like, I get that. Everything that's not, or everything that came from Southern gospel and country and blues.
Yeah, because you could do that with rock. You can even say that rock is actually an offshoot of something else. Like, they're literally
right. No,
and then you can say, well, they're all offshoots of music. Like, it doesn't. Yeah. That's why I get frustrated with anybody that try to definitively categorize anything.
Well, but
because
that's why
everything is like an offshoot of something else. Everything is an inspiration of something else. So if I label something horror, it just means it's in the horror, big umbrella of horror. Because I put thriller. I put thriller in that it's loose. It's like on that edge, but it is in the horror family, because there's certain movies like M. Night Shyamalan movies that we all talk about as horror, but no, dude, they're way more a thriller than they are a horror movie. But You know what I'm saying? So like that's why I hate the whole horror police. Like what the fuck, dude? Like watch
Well,
more
it's
movies.
yeah, dude, it's the same thing in metal. Like all like the metal police, they're all death metal.
Mhm.
They're all death metal fans that
Yep.
say that anything that's not death metal isn't metal. It's like shut the fuck
That
up.
was the first one I got
Like,
frustrated with.
yeah,
And
like
now metal's worse than it's ever been as far as that, because there's like so many offshoots. Because like for
yeah,
every genre, there's like, and that's why I have adopted the thing that a lot of people that talk about movies have done, where you do it's like a line of things. So like I said with Terrifier, it would be a splatter, exploitation, grindhouse, comedy, slasher, horror movie.
right.
You know what I mean?
So
And a
and
lot of
but
times
that's
it's where you put the horror in that title sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like where does the horror land in that is how close to the horror. Because a lot of times a movie will be really primarily a comedy, like a Shaun of the Dead. It's
right,
primarily a comedy, but
right,
it's definitely in the horror family too. So like horror is in its, it's like a zombie horror comedy.
right. No. I agree. But that's why we have subgenres, and that's why we have definitions of those subgenres. And when you look at the Terrifier movies, so the reason why I don't like the Terrifier movies is because they're bad stories, bad characters. But
I
that
like the
but that's
story of what, especially
that's
the
fine.
third one, because I felt like we got glimmers of it. The first one makes no sense. I've never argued the story is good in the first one. The story in the first Terrifier is there is no story. Like I don't even know if Damon Leone really knew a story. It's more like this will be
No,
cool.
it's
Let's
an
do
effects
that.
reel. It's an effects
Yeah, I
reel.
mean,
That's
because
what it
it's
is.
like it's like, is he supernatural? Well, then there's elements where it's not supernatural, but then it is supernatural. Like the second one to me is where he finally started going, okay, there is some type of universe here. There are some type of rules. I kind of have, I'm starting to have an idea of where we're going. And I felt
It's
like the
very
third,
loose.
what I liked about it is the third one felt the most like we actually have a story now. Still not saying it's like
Oh,
the
I didn't think that.
greatest, most complex story, but at least there is a universe that's being built here. Like the
What I'm
whole
trying to
demon, I
say,
mean, because it like it actually told you very clearly, like, where Art the Clown comes from. And I think that's awesome. Like the rule, like we finally know, like, he's a demon seed, like a host, basically, like a
right.
demon host.
I right. And so what I'm trying to say is the Terrifier movies have gone up a couple of points for me with the realization that these are splatter films and story is not the central concern of a
I've
splatter
been
film.
yelling that every time we talk about the Terrifier movies. So now you
That
come to
doesn't
that
mean
realization.
that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that story that you can't have a story in a splatter film.
But
It's
that's the
just
thing. When you review movies, and I try to tell people this, just like when I recommend movies, I don't have to fucking always like them. And I have varying degrees on how much I like something. But I have to, if I'm going to review something, if I'm going to talk about a film, I have to be able to be like you're talking about. And I respect that. And I'm like, about fucking time, DJ. This is what I've been saying is like, when you talk about movies, you have to kind of like put yourself aside, like step out of it and be like, this is what I say all the time. A movie, if it is doing what it's trying to do, and it knows the audience that it's going for, how good is it at being that thing? That's what a movie is like, should be reviewed on. You know what I mean? Because we all have personal taste and shit. I'm not going to be like, my favorite subgenre of horror is probably like Lovecraftian, like cosmic, right? But it doesn't mean like I now am can't enjoy every other thing or appreciate stuff. There's a
right.
lot of movies I don't really like, but I super appreciate it. Like I'm not a huge fan of the Wrong Turn movies, but I really appreciate them. Like for what they were trying to do. Like they're very fucking awesome at doing what they were trying to do. See? That's
I don't
what I
know if
mean. Like you just
I don't
don't
know if I agree with
you
that.
don't you don't get it yet. Like you eventually get to where, like, once you
I'm
categorize
not saying that
what
I
wrong
no,
turn is, then
I'm not right. but I get, listen, what I'm trying to say is the Terrifier movies for me, the reason why they went up like a couple of points is because I think in terms of splatter films, they are a good splatter film. I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think they're good movies. I'm not going to say, oh, now it's a good movie because I understand that it's a splatter film and that they did everything splatter right or well.
But
I'm
what
still
is
not
a
going to say
movie?
that. I still don't think they're good movies, but in
But
terms
what is
of,
a movie? And what is the point of a movie?
well, the point
This
of
is what I was talking about. Like,
so the point,
read a book if it's just about the story, but a movie is about visuals first.
a movie is visual storytelling.
But it's visuals first. Otherwise, it could just be a book. So, like,
Right.
the first thing that separates it from a book is the fact that it's moving pictures. So, like, that's, to me, that is why I always like that part matters. Is, you know, the look, the mood, you know, that kind of thing is so important because that's what separates it from a book. Now, if Terrifier was a book, would it be a good book? No, because its visual component is like 80% of what it is.
So you get you get when you come to the when you're asking me like what is a like what's a movie, um it's like it's visual storytelling.
Yeah.
You see moving pictures and they're telling a story.
But there's more
So
than just words, though, to visual storytelling.
no,
Because, like,
I know.
there are many scenes in Terrifier 3 where there's no dialogue, and yet you're still feeling something. So
But
it's still
that's why you're
visually
not
telling you a story still.
right. But what distinguishes a movie from just a sequence of pictures being shown in order is the story that is told in those pictures. Other than that, you're just watching pictures on a screen, right? That's so there is a difference there between a movie and
Well,
just
okay,
a
but
moving
here's
slideshow.
okay, but this goes beyond that, right? What is a story? Like, what is the point of a story? It's to make you feel things, right? Like, that is the whole point of
Well,
even reading a book. Like, it's to make you feel and think things.
no, I wouldn't. No, I don't think it would.
What do you mean? The
Yes,
whole point of
it's
it
not
is
just to make you feel
entertainment,
things,
which
but to tell a story is
it
to is
affects you. It's to affect the human. You know, the
well,
whole point of any
yeah,
story is to affect the human on some level, make you think something, make you learn something, make you feel something. It's all about human experience and how it impacts a human. And that's where I'm pushing back. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying this is where I disagree because for me, a lot of it's visual storytelling. It's visually impacting the human isn't done through dialogue. And that doesn't mean it's not a good story. It means it's impacting humans just on a different level. It's using the gore, it's using the visuals, you
yeah,
know,
I
it's
don't.
using those things more than it is the words. Because I don't think Damien Leone is a good writer. I'll never ever argue he's a good writer. He's getting better. I think eventually he could be a good writer, but like I still feel like he's a ways away from even knowing what a story, like how to tell a story. You know what I mean?
Right.
But as a visual component, and the reason I come at it from this angle is because I come from art, and like you look at a painting, it doesn't say anything. There's no words. It's all about a visual impact on the human. It tells its story through the way it makes you feel. And I think that Terrifier, as good as anything we're seeing done right now, impacts the observer on that level. Does
Okay.
that make sense? Like what I'm saying, like where it's the visual storytelling, it's the visual impact, not from words, but from the visual impact.
Right, the visual, but I don't think I've ever critiqued the visuals of Terrifier as being bad. I think
But I'm
they've
saying
always
that's
been
part
good.
of being a movie. This case is just
That's
like
part of it.
80%. It's 80% of what it is. It's like if you look at a painting and it
Right.
has some words on it on the bottom, right? Well, you're like, well, 80% of that is the visual experience. You know, 10% of it is the text that's on the bottom.
Right. Splatter films are all about the splatter
And about how
and
that
less
splatter
about
makes you feel.
and well, sure. And less about the story. And so Terrifier as splatter films are good splatter films. That's what I'm trying to say out of this whole thing. Is that they're good splatter films. However, my asterisk there is that am I gonna say it's a good movie? No. But if you're asking me like what's a good splatter film I could watch, I'd be like, well, watch Terrifier.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. We got a little
But
bit
I
of time
think,
left. So
but I think Friday the 13th is kind of
Friday the 13th is a slasher.
But I'd say that Terrifier isn't just splatter because it does feel a lot of that same like a lot of the same thing that Friday the 13th did. Like it is a slasher. It's just the gore is at the level of a splatter because if you watch splatter hasn't really been a thing mostly since the 80s, but the splatter movies have like the worst acting. They're super campy. It's all about like over the top gore. There isn't really any story, and there's definitely not any characters, and there's not any acting. Like to me, Terrifier is more like a Friday the 13th in that way. It's not at a Nightmare on Elm Street story or acting or you know what I mean? It's not on that level.
Yeah, you could say it's
more in the Friday the 13th.
You could say it's a slasher movie, yeah, but again, it's the subgenre that we're talking about, right? So like tech death is still death metal, but it's technical death metal. So it's more technical, it's more technically proficient as far as the musicianship goes than regular death metal, right?
But I would say it's
so when I'm talking about
slasher than it is a splatter.
I see. I would disagree. It's more of a splatter than it is a slasher.
But the reason you go like one of the main
splatter is extreme.
One
slasher.
of the main things that brings you to it is not the gore. That's the point I'm trying to make. One of the main thing you go see Terrifier for is Art the Clown.
I don't know if that's the main thing.
Yeah, dude, Art the Clown is the number one.
No, he's a great villain. No, he's a great character.
He's the number one thing. It's why all the merchandise is Art the Clown. Like his performance, he is the modern day Jason Voorhees.
Right.
He's like a mix between Jason and Freddy.
So you don't think Terrifier would be good if this was any other villain than Art the Clown? You think that if they keep all the gore and all the violence and all that the same, but
it would not be moving the needle, not even close. Because if that was the case, dude, I could tell you a ton of look at the sadness. Why is the sadness not a franchise? It's gorier than any of the Terrifiers.
Dude, the sadness, I cannot watch. Like, I watched that movie once. I had to shower afterwards.
Yep, because it's all sadistic. That's what I was trying to explain. Like the difference between that and Terrifier is one, you have Art the Clown, and two, it's funny. Like there's a lot of humor in it. It may not land for everyone, but it is intentionally trying to make you laugh. It's not a sadistic movie. Like I don't feel that the goal of Damien Leone is to make you feel like this sadistic experience. Like I think his goal is for you to have a fun experience.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And that's why art separates it. That's where art makes it different.
I think Terrifier 2, where he tears that girl apart and pours salt all over her and stuff like that. Like I would say that's probably the most mean that the movie's
got. Like the funniest scene in that movie.
But the things that are around that scene are like when he's at the door and stuff like that.
No, I think that scene is super funny because of how that's what I was talking about, like how far he pushes it. It goes from feeling sadistic to just being so ridiculous it becomes funny.
Yeah, I guess when he leaves and comes back,
which is kind of what I felt was missing in Terrifier 3. Like if I have to
Terrifier 3 was funny.
It is. I think it's super funny. But I think that Terrifier 2 is funnier. And I think Terrifier 2 is more fun. I felt like my only problem personally with Terrifier 3 is that it went back some to the first one. And I get it. He had a lot of people being like Terrifier 2 was too polished. It was too silly. They missed the more sadistic, rigid, creepy Art the Clown and stuff from Terrifier 1. And so he went and kind of made a movie that's a little of both. So I'm okay with that. But for my own personal taste, I prefer Terrifier 2 because it's just more fun. Like Art the Clown is more fun in that movie. There's certain scenes in this, especially the ending, that's just kind of sadistic. It's not a lot of fun. And it's like, if I want to watch a sadistic movie, I mean, there's a bunch of sadistic movies. That's not what
Right.
makes
Right.
that's not what makes the Terrifier movies interesting to me, you know. And that's why I mean by the gore is a vehicle, like the gore is a tool for Art the
Right.
Clown. But like
No,
you know, Art the Clown is the selling point. That's why he's all over the merch. He's on the cover of the. I mean, he's even on the cover of the first one. Like Art the Clown has always been the selling point for these movies. If you take Art, like as much as I enjoy Sienna as a final girl, dude, it's all Art the Clown. Like that fucking scene with Santa Claus is amazing. Like that's probably my
That's one of
favorite
the scenes that
scene
I
in the
probably would have.
movie.
That's one of the scenes that I would have cut down a little bit. Like that's where like I started to feel that
Really?
the movie was running pretty long, and yeah,
That was
like
one of
you
the
could.
scenes I was fine with because of the directions that it took in that scene. So I
I
thought
thought
the
it was
pacing
funny.
was fine in that.
I thought it was funny how he like pushed the girls out of the way to get to Santa, and like just
Yeah.
completely ignores them.
Dude,
Like
I
I thought that was
lost my
kind of
shit
funny.
though when he pees on Santa's lap, dude. I lost my
See,
shit.
I don't know. I thought
That's
that was
so
like
fucking funny.
I was like, all right, we're gonna do this, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know. That scene, I love it. I thought it was a great scene. But there definitely are plenty of scenes that felt like uh I could have cut out, you know, I wasn't even crazy about the mall Santa scene because I hear all these people complaining about kids dying in this shit. And it's like, dude,
yeah,
I thought they didn't push that scene far enough. It's like, if you're going to blow up a bunch of kids, let's see some body parts. Let's see some blood spray at least. Like
well, you saw a
something.
burning corpse, didn't you?
Yeah. But I think that was the security guard.
So do you think they should have shown him axing that kid in the beginning of the movie instead of doing it
No,
off screen and then showing the
no, I liked
results?
what they did there. I actually don't even think they should have shown the kid chopped up. Because I think what works in that whole scene is that anticipation that he's gonna do something. Like I love how they handled it with the little girl. Where you hadn't, like I've heard a lot of people say that he kills the little girl. I'm like, really? Rewatch that movie.
Yeah, I don't think he does.
It ends with zooming in on the axe. He never even grabs the axe. But in
Yeah,
people's brains, it does that Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing. And that to me is good art. Like that's good directing because it's like in your head, you finish the sentence. And like that's
right.
cool to me because all it does is shows him wave at the little girl and then zooms in on the axe. That's it. But so many people think he killed the little girl. So I felt like they didn't need to show the chopped up boy. Like I think that it was more visceral hearing it.
Uh,
Whereas the scene with the Santa mall, I would have shown something because it's like that's the whole point. You're blowing up this thing. I'm not saying you should show a kid blow up, but like see a hand or even just zoom in on a kid's shoe, like something that is like we just blew up a bunch of kids.
yeah.
And I felt like they chickened out a little bit there.
All right, let's see what the chat's talking about.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Spoiler.
I don't know if that's that much of a spoil. I don't know. Can you
I
spoil?
haven't.
Can you
Not really. I
spoil
haven't
the
spoiled the
Terrifier
ending,
movies?
but
Like,
no, because
can you spoil
all of
them?
it you need to see for yourself. Like, dude,
Um,
that shower scene, that's where I felt like repetitive too and could have been cut
yeah,
down.
yeah, that
Like,
could have been cut.
especially with the girl in the shower. Because like one zoom with the axe is fine. If you're not going to show him actually cutting through her, and isn't that like the part where he shut her arm? That's cool. But they did this whole, like over and over, him kind of going back and forth and nothing really changing. Like it
Right.
started to be like, okay, like what's the point here?
So
But I
chat.
loved how they did the guy on the ground though. Like I've never seen like a butt cheek cut like that, and then the groin cut like that was.
Oh
visceral.
yeah,
That was awesome.
So I've seen.
That's where Savini was involved.
I got to see a castration in a movie once. It was a short film, and it was just a full on just
Like
castration.
a real one?
No, it was fake. It
Okay.
was they did special effects, but it was like
The
you're
worst
looking at
I've seen.
full on
Have you
dong and
seen?
balls.
Have you seen? Obviously, you haven't seen it. Then have you? So you haven't seen the movie Outwaters?
I've not seen the Outwaters yet. No.
Holy shit, dude! it's an experimental movie that is like, it's just a bunch of crazy noises and visuals and stuff. It's like, I think it's better than Skinamarink, but it's a lot of that same type of like where
It's like an analog horror kind of
it's
stuff.
not really a movie. It's no, because those are still story driven. But it's not. And the reason I can handle those movies and I am okay with those is because to me they're like the films you see in art galleries. Like when you go to the MoMA, like literally it's they're visual art. That's what Skinamarink was. That's what The Outwaters is. They're not narrative movies. They're like visual experiences. They're not even trying to like really tell you a story.
Right.
But this final scene of Outwaters, holy fuck, dude. Talk about you want to see a fucked up castration. I have never seen it more real looking, more fucked up. It is brutal.
I'll get to it.
It's really cool though.
The
visuals are cool in that movie.
I want to go to chat for real quick before we get out of here. I'm only going to scroll up a little bit, guys. You've been very active, but
yeah, and I can talk about this movie for a lot longer.
Yeah, we talked about it all this entire episode.
It's just so interesting, man. It's so, I mean, neither of us have even really give our full review of it, but it's just a lot to talk about with it.
Heather says, would you throw in the Twilight Zone with horror, testing horror too? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What was that? What is that? What is she saying?
Would you throw in the Twilight Zone with, it says testing
horror,
that mean? But I'm not sure.
What does she mean? What is she referring to?
Well, I scrolled up. So this is back when we're talking about horror, like what's horror? Like, what do we do? Like when we'd say, what's a horror movie?
See, and to me, Twilight Zone are definitely horror, horror blanket, but umbrella. But that's what I mean. There's so many different, like, I just think anybody that tries to say what is a horror movie and what is not, is only going to make a fool out of themselves. Because I guarantee you, I can come up with one that they think is horror that it fits in the same zone as one they think is not horror.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I've given my definition of horror before. I think anything where fear is the central theme of the story is horror.
Your definition is one thing, but I'm talking about telling other people what a horror movie is.
What horror is? Okay.
Like that's a big difference. Like what you consider personally horror, it's the same as what you like. You know what I mean? It's just, that's an opinion. Like, that's fine. But if you try to tell someone, like, that's where my whole beef with all this comes from. Because I see it every fucking day. People in the comments telling me so-and-so movie is not a horror movie. Like, why am I calling it a horror movie? Like, it drives me up the wall.
B-movie theaters.
Because there's people that think The Black Swan is a horror movie. There's people that think Silence of the Lambs is a horror movie. There's people that think Jurassic Park is a horror movie. I'm not going to tell them they're wrong. Like, I don't personally consider those exactly horror, but to me they fit close enough that I'm fine with it, and it's their opinion.
B-movie theater says Terrifier is a slasher for people who are fans of slashers. I mean, yeah, but it's a splatter film. James is asking,
it's definitely in the splatter. It's definitely in the splatter category. I just think it's like splatter, then slasher, then horror.
Right.
So like if you're going to its home, I think it is more of a, like if you had to pick just one or the other, it is more of a slasher because it's got all the elements of a slasher.
Yeah.
Especially of like the 1980s slashers.
I don't want to get too deep into this because we got to get out of here. But James is asking, what kind of character is Art? It's just a random undead killer.
No.
So
I don't even know if I'd say he's undead.
Well, he's not. He's a demon. We know now.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Well, actually, no. He's like a demon vessel. So he's almost more like a knight, like a demon knight, because it said that he was brought back because that chick is actually who the demon is in.
Right.
She is what keeps bringing him back. Like the
Victoria
demon is what. Yeah. So it's not that he's undead, but he's also like he's alive. But he's superhuman. He's supernatural. Like he's, like undead to me is like a zombie where it's a dead corpse. Like that's still moving. I think Art is very much like alive. He's just always brought back to life to work for this demon.
Yeah. Mr. Wonderful says, I like the stories. I've yet to see the third one. First one is like, what the fuck? Where'd this clown come from? Mad Blood says, what's up, everyone? How's it going, Mad Blood?
What up, Mad Blood? Great channel, guys. Go check him out.
James says Art is a Chucky doll. That's not too far off the mark.
No, like I mean they're
Well,
both
think about
humorous killers, but
well, yeah, but
both
Chucky.
have
So Chucky is a vessel. So that's what
but
I'm saying.
but no,
Art
I don't.
Art is
Art's
a
not a
Chucky doll.
vessel. Art is like Art's the soul is still Art the clown, the serial killer. That's what I'm saying. Like in the movie, it says, I mean, I've seen this 3 times, so it's probably not fair for me to talk about it. Like, duh, how did you not hear that? But, because in that one scene, it says that the demon that's inside of the chick is what keeps bringing Art back to be her servant, like her, so it's still Art the clown. It's still the same serial killer from the first movie. The demon just keeps bringing Art back to work for him, basically to do his bidding, to do the evil shit.
Which now answers Harley's question. So what was the woman all about?
Yeah. Like she's the actual demon. Like she gets possessed by the actual demon.
Wednesday
and that's
says
why killing her, all that shit at the end, like was all because I was actually killing the demon.
Wednesday says Schindler's List
or
can somehow
sending the demon back to hell, basically.
Can somehow defiantly qualify as a horror movie, but no. I would not categorize Schindler's List as a horror movie, but there's some.
Yeah, I would say it's a drama. It's a what's it called? Because it's a real thing. It's not a biopic. What's a period drama?
It's a period piece. It's a
that has horror, like horror elements, like things that are actually horror. But that's why I don't consider like serial killer movies. That's why I struggle to call Silence of the Lambs a horror movie. Because like a crime, like Seven, like to me, Seven is actually more horror than Silence of the Lambs, and yet nobody considers Seven a horror movie.
I consider Seven a horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, as much like to me, if you're going to consider Silence of the Lambs, like Seven's even more horror. But like my point is, like crime, serial killer movies, it depends on the tone. But like a lot of them don't feel like horror movies, like they just don't feel like the tone's there. But if someone considers it, that's fine. Like I don't care. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong.
B Movie Theater says a horror movie doesn't need to be scary to be good.
Exactly.
I don't know.
It doesn't. Think about it. I bet you can name off 1,000 horror movies that are not scary at all, but do you still consider horror?
Yeah, no, you're right. I had to think about that for a little bit.
Because sometimes it's dread. That's the emotion. Sometimes it's feel weird. Sometimes it's like, because like for instance, I didn't think Hereditary is actually scary. I don't think any of that movie is meant to scare you, but it's meant to disturb you. It's meant to make you feel uncomfortable and feel a ton of emotions. Actually, that's what makes that movie so good, is because you feel a lot of emotions in it. Like the best made movies make you feel a lot of different things.
Yeah, I agree. Vorpal Bite says, "Dear Lord, all of the Cthulhu movies suck." What? Wrong.
What? What's a good Cthulhu movie? I've never seen a good one. It sucks. Like I don't understand why we've never had a good Cthulhu horror movie. The only one,
mean like Cthulhu, the
kind of a spoiler, but Underwater is the only one that got close. But it's not really a Cthulhu movie.
Well, Vorpal, are you talking about Cthulhu specifically, or are you talking about Lovecraftian movies? Because I
talking about Cthulhu. Because there's a couple movies called Cthulhu, a couple movies that have Cthulhu in it, and none of them are any good. They're all super low budget shit. That's what I mean. Underwater is the only one that has a Cthulhu in it, a Cthulhu type of figure in it. That's actually a really fucking good movie. But like, it drives me nuts. I don't know why, and Lovecraftian in general. Why do we not have more good cosmic and Lovecraftian movies? Like it makes no sense to me.
I think we have some great cosmic Lovecraftian horror movies.
I'm just saying, why don't we have more?
Oh, well, okay, yeah, you're right.
Because we only have, there are some that are some of my favorite movies. They're great, but it's just very rare that we get.
We definitely need more.
Not good ones, but I mean, just in general, like the most recent one I saw was Older Gods, which is a really low budget movie. It's actually pretty fucking good. It kind of reminds me in a way of what your movie like the budget level and stuff of your movie. Like, I think you have some things that are better about yours, but it's like it's super low budget, not the best made in this case, but it's got some really cool elements in it. So if anybody hasn't seen Older Gods on Tubi, like if you're wanting a cosmic horror, it's got a couple really cool images, and
James says the Hellgate is a good movie. How do you know, James? You haven't seen it. Lila says, I like it when the horror zaddies fight. More yelling. Yeah, we get into it sometimes. Mr. Wonderful says,
I'm fighting. It's just debating.
I'm curious what the next subject to talk about is. The entire episode's been a debate about Terrifier. I mean, yeah, that's what we were talking about today.
Yeah, that's today's episode. There's not any like pressing news or things to talk about, which is so strange to me that here we are only 2 weeks from Halloween, and yet there's just not a ton going on in horror. It's odd to me. Like, I don't know why there's not more movies being released. Like, how do we only have 2 like major horror movies released this month?
Yeah, there's not a lot.
But I've heard Smile 2 is incredible. I mean, people that I trust the opinion of saying it's better than the first.
I'm looking forward to Smile 2, and I'm looking forward to The Heretic.
Yeah, but that's not till like mid-November.
Well, I know, but
I don't know why they didn't release that in October. I just don't get it. Like,
who knows?
Like, I guess they were worried that Joker was going to just, make all the money, and so they didn't want to compete with it, because there's not even any other movies really. Like, the next one is movie I can't stand, but the fucking damn it, what's it called? The Carnage and
Venom.
The comic book Venom.
Yeah, like those movies are terrible.
I fucking hate those movies.
Bryce says Terrifier is both a slasher and a splatter. It's a splasher. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. Let me see here. The blind chick from Oddities Baby Daddy says calling Terrifier good is like saying Kurt Cobain was a good guitar player. Might sound good to you, especially with the rest of the band and his vocals, but he's not a good guitar player.
That's not true. That's not true. It's just all about what you define as good. Because as far as creativity, Kurt Cobain was amazing, because those songs were Kurt Cobain. Like the structure, everything about the sound, it was all Kurt Cobain. And that came out of his guitar. So to say he's not a good guitar player, it's like, what? Technically he's not good? Yeah, sure. So, but that doesn't mean shit. We're talking about art. Like, technicality, anybody really can learn technique of stuff. Not anybody, but a lot of people. But creativity is the thing you cannot teach someone.
True.
I mean, Kurt Cobain made a whole new sound.
He made a new genre. I agree.
Yeah. And like, you don't have to like that. I'm not saying that it's, that it's an opinion, some people don't like grunge, some people do, but like, he legitimately changed the music world for a number of years. Everything that was, what everybody thought of as pop culture. He really did. Nirvana basically did what Terrifier is doing right now. They came out and did something totally different, and it like became this huge phenomenon, and it was so different, like totally different than anything else that was coming out at the time.
Yeah, I would agree.
And rock became pop for, really for probably about 10 years or so, because after grunge, we had new metal.
Right. And alt metal. We have a resurgence of alt metal. Nick says, I must admit that I was slightly disappointed
alternative in general.
Happily giving my money to indie horror films, but was not overly impressed.
But did you like Terrifier 2? I mean, like, I don't get that sentiment. I've seen a few people say that they love Terrifier 2 but didn't like Terrifier 3. And like, I get it if it's because of why I didn't like it as much, because I just thought it was not as fun. But I think it's a better made movie.
Yeah, I don't know. Jay says, not sure I can sit through a Terrifier movie. Haven't been able to yet. Didn't find them interesting. But we'll give this one a try also. Yeah, I mean, it's not everybody's. I didn't find them interesting either. I thought, my reviews of all 3 Terrifier movies are that they are good special effects reels for Damien Leone, and they're good splatter movies if that's what you're looking for. But as far as like quality writing, acting, characterization, anything like that, no, that's not what they are.
But it really is this simple. If you enjoyed the Friday the 13th movies, you liked watching Jason go around and kill people. That was the whole point, and that's why you liked going to those movies. Terrifier is the exact same thing. Like, regardless of the gore levels, regardless of the humor and the story or any of that, the main reason to go see it is because you dig this killer going around killing people in different unique ways. Because that's what they're about. Like, that's what they are. Like, I think they do some things a lot better than Friday the 13th, which is why I think it's so funny that for the entire 80s, everybody was like, they understood and accepted Friday the 13th, but then you got people in the horror community pushing back on Terrifier. I'm like, it's literally the same thing. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
and Saw is kind of the same thing too. Like, there wasn't a ton of story to Saw. Yeah, eventually it becomes like a soap opera. But we didn't go see those. Nobody went and saw, like, back every year, Halloween time. Nobody was going to see those because of the story. The fact that it had a story is cool.
I was very interested in the story of Saw. I thought the first Saw movie had a great story. Yeah, I thought I think Jigsaw is a very interesting villain.
But as a whole, when you look back on it now, yeah. And the different things they've had him do. But I'm saying at the time, every Halloween when we were going to see a Saw movie, all everybody talked about was the traps. We're going to see these to see the traps.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah,
what unique creative traps they could come up with. And it's what made those movies, what they were. It's like and that's why I'm saying about Terrifier. There's other things about it, like seeing a Shaw character. I think she's compelling. I think she's doing a great job. And I think it really needed a final girl, which is part of what was missing from the first one, and having this final girl, I think, is cool. It's like, the good versus evil thing.
Yeah.
And I do think that they're adding some kind of interesting story elements and lore and things like that. But at the end of the day, if you don't get off on watching a slasher killer walk around and kill people,
you're not going to like it.
You're not going to like these. But it's the same with Halloween. It's the same with Friday the 13th. And it's kind of what was wrong with, to me, the last couple Halloween movies. It's because it's kind of like you're trying to take a slasher and make it something different. And that was the biggest problem with Halloween Ends. It's like, I've heard a lot of people say, on its own, if it was, not called Halloween, people would like it. It's like, yeah, but it is called Halloween, and it does have Michael Myers, and people go to see those to just see Michael Myers going around kill people.
I liked Halloween 3.
Me too. I love it.
I think it's a great movie.
But I understand 100% why people hated it at the time.
Yeah. Look. Nick is asking, what the fuck is Cthulhu? Nick, you need to go read H.P. Lovecraft.
But there's a really good audio version on Spotify of the Call of Cthulhu. It's just a short story, so you can read it or listen to it, but it's short.
They're all short stories. H.P. Lovecraft, the father of cosmic horror, posthumously. How do you say that word? Famous.
Yeah, but he is a good example of what I was saying with Kurt Cobain, because he wasn't that good of a writer, but he had great ideas, great imagination. Like, his actual writing skill was not the greatest.
No. H.P. Lovecraft was a fantastic writer. People just didn't like his stuff. He was fantastic. Dude, okay. Nah. H.P. You cannot read.
He had great ideas, dude. The way his stuff is written, it's tedious, man.
Oh my God, no. This man. Look, I can understand how
it's like overly wordy.
No, it's great writing. It is great writing. You are 100% wrong. H.P. Lovecraft is a fantastic writer.
Okay, but still, you can't argue with what made him what makes him special is his imagination.
Absolutely.
Is like the creativity, because there's other people that are better writers. Like, if you want to say he's a great writer, there's still a lot of people that are. It's same with Stephen King.
Fine.
It's not that Stephen King is like the best writer ever.
No.
But his idea,
I'm not going to say he's bad.
The worlds he creates, that's what's unique. Yeah. And that's why when it comes to art, imagination is the most important thing. Everything else can be worked around. I'm a perfect example of that. Like, I've never had great skills to draw like a traditional picture. I've never had great skills to be able to play a traditional instrument, but I still made interesting music, interesting art. It's just like now I don't have the ability because of my hands to edit videos and do the things that most people on YouTube can, right? But I work around it and I find ways to make things, and I have an imagination and creativity and the way I look and the background around me, and you know what I mean? And like, because that's what's important when it comes to art.
No, I agree. Sorry, I'm just trying to get through the chat here because we are running long.
Other stuff matters too, but I'm just saying, like, when you take someone like Kurt Cobain, that's the most important part of Kurt Cobain, and it can't be, you know, you can't be like, he was a shitty guitar player. It's like, well, dude, he was fucking creative as all hell. Like,
yeah, but okay, so would you?
I think if he had lived older, he would have gotten better guitar as well, like the skill level guitar.
Yeah,
but,
I think that's what he was trying to say is that
Kurt like
Kurt Cobain isn't a very skilled, very technically proficient guitar player. Which
but you can say the same thing about the Beatles. You can say the same thing about Green Day.
Yeah,
and like, I don't agree with any of that. Like, they're all really good musicians. They just may not be like musicianship, but also too, believe it or not, I know I've been in bands forever. A lot of musicians, we don't worry about trying to make technically amazing things. It's about a good fucking song.
No, I agree, and that's what I'm. That's I think you and I are saying the same thing. I don't think Kurt Cobain. I'm not going to.
I know you are. I know you are. I'm talking about the guy that was.
Nirvana's a revolutionary band, but no, I'm not going to come out and put Kurt Cobain on a list of like the top 10 guitar players. I'm not going to do that. Same way with like.
I know, and I've seen that. And like, I've seen people do that. I just think it all comes down to what your definition is, though. Because like, if you want to put top 10 creative guitar players or top 10 most impactful guitar players or something like that, that's one thing. But if you're going to say, like, as far as who was technically the best, you know, no, he's nowhere near one of the best guitar players. Technically speaking.
Yeah, so I think that's what we're talking about here.
But you also,
technically speaking,
but you also, like I was saying too, you're also judging it based on the songs. And like, that's the problem with that logic. Like, Billy Joe Armstrong, from what I know from people, like, dude can shred, but that's not what he needs to do in Green Day.
Yeah.
Like, it's just basic Beatles types of riffs. The Beatles are a perfect example. Dude, those guys could play if they had to, besides Ringo. Ringo legitimately just wasn't a very good drummer, but they played what worked for the song and what people liked in the songs. Like, it's about the song.
I would agree.
Like,
with
you
that.
can go get Yngwie Malmsteen all day long, right? I don't want to fucking listen to that dude's shit. Like, he's fucking incredible on guitar, but it's boring as all hell. Like, you listen to it for like, you know, a few minutes, you're like, yeah.
You heard one Yngwie song, you've heard them all.
Yeah, but it, like, dude shreds. Like, nobody argues that he's like a master at physically playing the guitar.
Okay, we got to get out of here. Thanks for everybody for sticking around with us. If you have not subscribed to the Screaming Room yet, please do so now. I'm putting the link, all of you in the Ghost Pirate chat. The link is, there it is. There's the link to the Screaming Room. Please subscribe and please watch us on the Screaming Room on Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern.
4 p.m. Pacific. And I would love to also hear ideas from you guys. Like, what are things you'd like to see us talk about on these podcasts?
Yes.
Because we don't want to always simply tell you the news. Like, a lot of weeks like this is not even that interesting as shit to talk about. And so we would love to answer your questions, you know, or if you have a good topic, talk about it, you know. So we want you guys to be interacting. It's important to what we're trying to do here. So,
yep. And the only way we can do that is if you comment on these videos. So please, especially in the Screaming Room, on the Screaming Room channel.
Mostly on the Screaming Room, because unfortunately on the Ghost Pirate, you'll probably get drowned. I can only keep up with them, and you know, and I'm not trying to sound like, oh, look how many comments I get, but like, legitimately, like, I can't keep up with all the comments. So I definitely can't respond to all of them. And sometimes I don't even get a chance to read them all, especially when I release a new video. So definitely leave them on the Screaming Room.
Heather wants us to talk about horror anime. And we will. There's some really good horror anime. Wicked City is one of the ones that I've seen that I think is great. And then
I've never really seen any of it, so I'm totally open to like watching it for the first time, watching some, and talking about it, because it's a whole world I am not experienced in at all. So
I would definitely recommend Wicked City first. I would start that first, but we'll talk about that. Erotic horror, Terry wants to talk about. All right. And then horror adjacent films.
Erotic horror besides Danzig shit?
Yeah. I'm sure there's plenty. We can find it. Yeah. All right, but guys, you're saying it in the chat. Thank you, but please,
yeah, comment. We need them as a record on the comments.
We can go back when we're looking. Okay, what do they want us to talk about? We can go back and write it down and watch some movies and talk about it. But thank you.
Plus, it's the only thing that helps the algorithm.
Right. Yeah. Comments help us, and share our show, please. If you like what you see, if you like us watching it, please share us around.
Screaming room.
Right.
From
share the
screaming room.
Please. Thank you. All right, guys, we're taking off. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
See y'all next week.